Saat ini, waktu menunjukkan jam 7 malam.
This is pasfm, Radio Bisnis Jakarta.
Segera kita ikuti radio talk show bersama Ong Hok Chuan, salah satu figur ternama di dunia PR yang juga managing partner dari Maverick. Selamat mengikuti.
Dan ini direkam untuk pasfm Jakarta. Saya Robert dari Sandler Training, juga dari Radio pasfm. Terima kasih sudah hadir di acara 60 menit Sandler kolaborasi dengan Radio Bisnis pasfm. Oke, sebentar sebelum kita mulai. Saya share screen dulu, ada info yang perlu lewat. Oke, acara 60 menit, tepat 60 menit. Hari ini khusus dalam bahasa Inggris, mungkin campur-campur juga. Nanti sebentar saya perkenalkan narasumber hari ini, sangat spesial. Ada Pak Ong Hok Chuan, sebentar saya akan perkenalkan. Karena waktunya terbatas, ini diskusi santai mengenai PR, public relations. Karena waktunya terbatas, teman-teman yang punya pertanyaan, karena ini kita mau bikin kasual, jadi saya sangat welcome pendengar radio yang ingin bertanya, dikirim aja WhatsApp ke 0816 924 924. Sekali lagi 0816 924 924. Tentu karena terbatas waktunya, nggak semua akan kita tanya dan nggak semua akan kita jawab. Untuk teman-teman yang hadir di Zoom, terima kasih. Boleh tanya di chat ya, atau juga nanti saya kasih kesempatan untuk bicara kalau pertanyaannya relevan ya. Jadi saya sebagai host akan mengatur jalannya diskusi. Oke, tadi saya sudah sebut hari ini dalam bahasa Inggris, jadi saya di sini berfungsi sebagai host dan juga semi translator, tapi saya yakin Pak Ong di sini juga mengerti bahasa Indonesia. Oke, harap di mute ya, udah standar mute, takut suara bocor, kecuali nanti host panggil untuk bicara. Video yang di Zoom rekomendasi dinyalakan, karena survei membuktikan video nyala membantu kita berkonsentrasi, tidak distracted ya. Jangan lupa teman-teman juga video saya mana ini, rename ya, namanya di rename, dicek, kadang-kadang ada link dibagikan gitu, jadi namanya bisa sama, ada beberapa orang dengan nama sama. Lalu mengenai internet, mohon maklum kalau internet Bapak Ibu saya atau narasumber bermasalah. Namanya juga streaming ya, ada hal yang kita nggak bisa kontrol melalui internet. Materi recording nggak diberikan. Dan yang terakhir, follow IG Sandler Training, sandlertraining.indo untuk mendapatkan informasi webinar-webinar gratis tapi sangat bervalue dan sangat bagus seperti hari ini di Instagram kami. Oke, sedikit tentang Sandler. Kami perusahaan training ya, pelatihan. Kami banyak membantu perusahaan khususnya di bidang Salesforce development. Jadi kita dari asalnya dari Amerika, kita di Indonesia udah 10 tahun. Tahun ini genap 10 tahun. Seperti yang saya sudah sebut, kita spesialis di Salesforce development. Tentu banyak sekali program-program lain, tapi kita bangga dengan spesialisasi kita membantu perusahaan mengembangkan tenaga Salesforce-nya. Oke. Izinkan saya perkenalkan narasumber spesial hari ini, Pak Ong Hok Chuan. Let me read his stellar CV, panjang, jadi harap bersabar. Pak Ong Hok Chuan adalah managing partner dari Maverick Indonesia, agensi PR sangat ternama ya. Ong co-founded Maverick in 2002, jadi 20 tahun lalu ya. 2002 tepat 20 tahun lalu, setelah bekerja sebagai jurnalis selama 14 tahun di Malaysia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, dan Indonesia. Pak Ong juga memimpin Ogilvy ya, Ogilvy sangat terkenal, PR operations di Indonesia dan juga di Singapura. Ya, Pak Ong is a seasoned PR professional who has advised clients and helped them through some of their most sensitive and intractable problems in the area of crisis and issues management, litigation, and brand strategy. Jadi ada beberapa kata kunci nanti kita mau bahas lebih dalam, ya, terutama ada kata kunci crisis management, brand strategy, juga ada issue management. Nah, ini hal-hal yang kita akan kupas hari ini. Ong is also an accomplished trainer di media handling skills. Salah satu tugas kunci dalam PR pastinya media handling, termasuk menghandle saya. Crisis management and interpersonal communication skills. In fact, Pak Ong is very much hands-on. Ya, beliau masih sangat hands-on in critical crisis management cases. Okay, Pak Ong is a press fellow at Wolfson College, Cambridge. Wow, keren sekali. He's a member in a board of advisors for the Indonesian PR Practitioners Group and an advisor to Pesta Blogger, Indonesia's largest annual gathering of bloggers. Pak Ong has often, sering banget di-quote oleh tentang PR dan communications matters dari organisasi berita ternama seperti BBC, ABC, Reuters, dan pastinya sekarang radio bisnis Pas FM. Okay, a very good evening to you, Pak Ong.
Good evening. I'm delighted to be here today.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Ong, for your time. We will do in English. I'm a bit nervous. It's been some time since I conduct a full English interview, but I'll try my best. And the participants, there might be questions in Indonesian. We'll deal about it as they come along. Okay. And okay, I think in the Zoom we are going to have about 30 people as people are trickling in, and I'd like to start the discussion, if it's okay with you, and then I'll start with a quote from a Forbes article that I just read. This article is from 6 years ago, and the quote is a little bit not very positive. It says, "The public relations industry does a terrible job of public relations." Okay, we'll stop at that, and then we are gonna kupas, yeah, we're gonna delve into details about this PR world, because I really believe PR is a great, powerful tools that the companies can leverage to build their image. And first question, what is to you, untuk teman-teman di sini, why I invited Pak Ong? Because I've heard his name so many times in the PR world, and then I met him once. He may not remember, but I met him once in one of the conference. I think it's in APMF or somewhere that he has shared before in a small room, and then I listened to his sharing. It's great, full of insights, very sharp. That's why I invited him today. So we're gonna listen from him today. We're gonna learn about PR. PR fundamentals, strategy, corporate and marketing communications, and also crisis management. We have recent cases that we can study. Okay, Pak Ong? Okay, so Pak Ong, what is the definition of PR to you?
Okay. This question has got a lot of PR people quaking because it's very difficult for them to answer. Because PR does so many things and it's very hard to define. So where Maverick is concerned, we tell people what is PR. PR is making anything complex sound simple, anything simple sound important. And that's all we do. Anything complex, we make it sound simple. Anything simple, we make it sound important. Why is it important? Because it's relevant, it's useful to you. So in a nutshell, that's PR. And by the way, I agree with Forbes. PR actually does a very bad job of PRing PR. And that's why we call ourselves a strategic communications consultancy. rather than a PR agency. The problem is this, I think where PR is concerned, there's several problems. Traditionally, it dealt with the media. So when you say PR, people think that it is media relations, whereas it's not, especially today, because with social media and all of that, there are, for instance, projects that we do with clients where we don't even speak to a medium, right? So we are on social media, we use other channels, KOLs, influencers, but not journalists at all. So unless PR can get away from this image that it deals mainly with the mainstream media, it actually has got a very bad, it does a very bad job of marketing itself.
Okay, so PR is making complex things simple and simple things important. And I like your firm's name, it's Maverick. That's why I told my team to play Maverick's soundtrack looping over and over for this special edition for you, Paong. Okay, so PR is not only media handling, but now it's got a whole range of tools. You said social media, you said influencers, you said KOLs, key opinion leaders. So in trying to persuade people, I heard PR people are storytellers. Is that true, Paong?
It certainly is true because stories are more sticky. If you tell a story, people will remember it. And if you don't tell the story, what you're doing is you're giving information. Most of the time, people get bored, you tune out. So again, how do you make it sound simple, yet important, and in a way fascinating? Because and stories do that function.
Okay. My next question, since you mentioned in the definition of PR, PR is not just traditional media handling, but it's more than that. So how is PR actually different than advertising?
Well, PR has always been more than just media, dealing with the media. Because if you go back to the definition of PR, it's building that relationship with your different publics. Okay, that was language from quite a few years ago. Modern language, it's building that relationships with your stakeholders. And this is where PR comes in. So you might have stakeholders in, say, government, communities, NGOs, all sorts of stakeholders. These are your publics. And the PR person's job is to find out the best way to reach them and to connect with them, to say something that is important to them, that resonates with them. That's the PR person's skill. So again, you go back to this, make anything complex sound simple, anything simple sound important.
Okay. Can you, advertising maybe is perceived as more towards putting money, you paying money, right, to buy advertisements, whether in traditional media or now maybe in digital. But PR is different. You don't have to pay money. Is that correct, or is it wrong for me to say that PR is free for the company?
Well, that is true to a certain extent. You know the old saying, right? That advertising is about how good you say you are, whereas PR is how good someone else says you are. So that's the difference between advertising and PR. In the old days, in terms of marketing, people would talk about above the line and below the line.
Yeah.
But if you look at marketing literature these days, nobody talks about above the line, below the line anymore. Instead, they talk about peso. Peso is not a Mexican currency. Peso is an acronym for pay, earn, share, and own. So these days, when you want to approach, when you want to reach audiences, your different publics, it's very important to know what your information ecosystem is. Information ecosystem is like a bubble. All of us have got these bubbles where we get information from. So say an older person like me, part of my ecosystem would be Facebook and the people I follow on Facebook. 20-year-old person, they're not on Facebook. It's for old people. They are on TikTok. They are on Instagram, right? So if, for instance, you want to reach an older person, you're not on Facebook, then you don't get into my information ecosystem. And then I don't see it. Same with a younger person. You know, if I wanted to reach a Gen Z, I would use TikTok or Instagram. And that's how you get to reach them. So we live in a world today whereby people choose what sources of information they have. And when they choose that, that becomes their information ecosystem. So anything that's in their information ecosystem, you're likely to hear about it. Anything that's not, they don't know about it. So this upsets the whole traditional PR model, whereby, the more media coverage I get, the more media clips I have, the better it is. And that's how people used to function. So say you go 20 years ago, if you got half a page at Compass, you go, yes, score, right? But these days, you get half a page in Compass. The question is, who reads Compass? We did a survey, Maverick did a survey of Gen Z. And what we found was that actually only 2% read newspapers. So then you say, but Compass puts it in compass.com, just like other things, other news organizations. But then you think about it, compass.com, how many hundreds of stories, how many dozens of stories do they carry each day? None of us go into compass.com and scroll through all the stories. We read it only when it pops up in our information ecosystem, either on our WhatsApp group, on our Twitter feed, on your Instagram, then you read it. Otherwise, you just don't know about it. So it's a whole different ball game that communications plays in right now.
Okay, very interesting. The information ecosystem, right? That it's so complex with new media. Last time there's no TikTok. Now TikTok is here and it becomes very big. So now it's you're saying that the job of a PR professional becoming more and more complicated, because in the olden days, like you said, you get half a page in Compass, you win big, right? But now going back to the information ecosystems, right? Whether you're reaching the right audience that the brand is targeting. Okay, Pak Ong, I'm very interested in the model, the peso. You mentioned briefly the paid media, earned media, shared media, and the owned media. Can you elaborate more on that? Because you said this is the way of looking at the or what do you call it, the PR.
Right. So very simple. Paid media is what you pay. Either it's Facebook ads, sponsored tweets, even paid influencers. This is paid media. Paid media is a bit like advertising. It's good to reach a huge lot of audience. Whether you do anything with that, it's great for increasing awareness, but does it change people's attitudes or behaviors? No one really knows. You know, the old story is like, I know that half of my advertising budget is effective. I just don't know which half, right? So that's paid media for you. Then there is earned media. Earned media is what someone writes about you. You don't pay for it, but you get that publicity. So pasfm is interviewing me. The content here is paid, is earned media because I don't pay you. You invited me and you said all nice things about me. There is a lot of credibility in that. So it is very valuable, earned media, in spite of the fact that a lot of newspapers are in trouble right now. A lot of news organizations have got their revenues down. The mainstream media is still, the established media is still very important because of the credibility. So let's say you call a press conference or an interview with a reporter, you have them writing stuff. Great. But then what do? Nobody reads the newspapers. And if it goes on the online, you're not quite sure if anybody will read it. So what you do is you flip it into your own media. So your own Facebook, your own Twitter account, your own Instagram, etc. So let's say today's interview, we consider that an earned media. I cut a segment of it and I put it in my Insta story. What I would have done is I would have flipped the content, the earned content, into my own content. And if I have a community, if I have a lot of followers, then these followers will see it. It gets into their information ecosystem. They'll see it and they might retweet, repost, they might share it with comments or no comments. So that's why communities are very important right now. So you, what do you call it? You have shared news. So and then what you do, if you wanted to and you had the budget, is you use your money to buy some paid media to point it to your own media or the shared media. So it all now is juggling around, because unless you get it into all this media, you just don't get into people's information ecosystem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very interesting. So paid itu we pay, earn is people write about us. It's free, and then own, each brand will have their own media channel, their own Instagram account, and etc. And shared is when things go viral, when you have good content. Okay, mitra bisnis yang mendengarkan di radio, kalau ingin bertanya boleh, nggak apa-apa, ketik aja, nanti saya yang translate ke WhatsApp 0816-924-924, sekali lagi 0816-924-924, teman-teman yang di Zoom boleh ketik di chat, bahasa Indonesia pun boleh, nanti saya bacakan dan saya terjemahkan kalau diperlukan. Oke, what is it, Pak?
Bisa paham bahasa Indonesia, cuman kalau bicara itu sedikit.
Okay, karena Paong has been in Indonesia for 20 years ya Pak? If I count from the founding of Maverick.
26 years actually.
Okay, 26 years. So yeah, bahasa Indonesia pun boleh. Okay, Paong, very interesting. My next question is this. I think that the line between advertising and PR and you know the communications, what do you call it, the umbrella has blurred and it's becoming one. Maybe that's why when I researched about you for this interview, and then I was hoping the website would say PR agency, but it's not. It said communications forgot the exact words, but it's along communications strategy consultancy, something like that. Am I right, Paul? So I get the feeling there's this convergence or blurring the lines between PR or because there's just so many things going on at this moment. Okay, Paul, can you taking this a step further? We heard about peso, the difference media available, and we heard about information ecosystems. And then my next question is PR only for big businesses that have money to employ agencies like Maverick, or small medium businesses can? It's also relevant? How would you answer this?
Well, PR is probably the most cost-effective of all the marketing communication disciplines. So small companies can do it, and small companies can use it to great effect, especially now, because you can use social media as a means of distributing your information. So not only big companies, but small companies can also benefit. Where Maverick is concerned, we are just geared to serving big multinationals and big companies. But that's a choice, a business strategy on our part. There are lots of firms that help startups. They work with startups, they work with small companies and provide the PR services.
Okay, so it's very much relevant. And then if you can educate us, how to construct a good PR strategy? What are the fundamentals or the essentials that companies need to get this right in order to have a solid PR or communications in a broader sense strategy? Oh,
well, I would say start at the end. Ask yourself, right? Ask yourself, if you're totally successful doing your PR or communicating for a company, then what would have changed? You know, essentially, communications does three things at the end of the day. First is that it builds awareness. It changes the level of awareness. Second is that it changes people's perceptions or attitudes towards something. And third is that it changes people's behavior. You used to buy this, now you buy that. It changes the behavior. So when you analyze it, that's all communications does. 1, 2, or 3 things, right? So it's important that you know that. So then a lot of people say, oh, look, I want to do PR, I want to do communications, and then you ask them why. And then they are like, caught in the headlights. They don't really know why, because other people are doing it, because that's what needs to be done. But essentially, what PR does and what communication should do is to make a difference to the business. We are a service, and people hire us so that they can achieve their business objectives very easily. So how we approach it is that we would ask our clients, what is your business objective? What is your business objective for this year or the next 2 years? Is it to increase market share? Is it to introduce or launch products? Is it to change people's perception about your products? So we need to be very clear what the business objective is. And from there, you can then say, well, this is where communications, say, needs to raise awareness about this certain thing or change people's attitude. So if you're successful then at the end of it, you would have changed the level of awareness, you would have changed people's attitude, or you would have changed people's behavior. So if you start from that, then that's a good place to start. And then normally with PR, what happens is that you look at it as point A and point B. Point A is where you are, that's with facing all these challenges, etc. And point B is where you want to get at, right? If you're totally successful, you get to point B. Then how you get from point A to point B is your strategy. So in some ways, it is very, very simple, at least theoretically. In practice, it's very, very difficult because everyone gets very confused. So that's what.
Info Falas dipersembahkan oleh Indodax.com.
Inilah nilai tukar sejumlah mata uang dibanding dolar Amerika. Euro 0.970, dolar Australia 0.631, pound sterling 1.105. Sementara dolar Amerika dibanding yen Jepang 145.56, Swiss franc 0.998. Sedangkan kurs mata uang lainnya dibanding rupiah adalah ringgit Malaysia 3.294.19, Baht Thailand 403.802, dolar Singapura 10.653.79, Bitcoin 296.790.000, Ethereum 20.151.000, USDT 15.288. Harga emas per troy ounce 1.683.6 dolar Amerika. Harga minyak mentah di New York Mercantile Exchange 92.16 dolar Amerika per barrel.
Info Falas dipersembahkan oleh Indodax.com. Untuk update nilai tukar Bitcoin dan aset digital lain, klik Indodax.com.
Over here is different, so it's very complicated. The number of available media it's increasing, and we'll never know if there's something new again tomorrow or next year. So do you think social media will replace the traditional media, especially let's talk about in the PR context? What is the relevancy of PR in this age of social media, AI, machine learning? Elon Musk said there's a lot of bots in Twitter. So what is your view on this?
Well, I think social media in many respects has already replaced traditional media. Some people just get their information only from social media, not from traditional media. And of all the social media, the most powerful platform is not TikTok, it's not Instagram, it's not YouTube or Twitter. It is what you and I and everybody else probably listening in use. It's WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp groups are probably the most powerful, except the problem with WhatsApp is that nobody can track it. Unless you belong to a group, you don't know what's being said. But WhatsApp group is probably the most influential of all the media. It's what we would call the dark web. Dark web is web that you can't track and you can't measure, but it's the most powerful. Right? So social media, I think, has replaced traditional media by a lot. So what we see now is that a lot of traditional media failing because they can't make enough money. The advertisers are going away, or the advertisers are channeling their money to influencers. So you have the phenomenon also of homeless media. You get people like Daddy Corbusier, right? He's not a media house. He's not an influencer. He's a homeless media. One of his podcasts, one of his YouTube channels, you go on it, 15 million views. Even the traditional media can't beat that, right? So I think social media changed everything, and it's very influential. And then, as you said, a lot of it will change. You know, whoever heard of TikTok, say 5 years ago, right? And if you look at social media, it's actually quite young. It started around year 2000. And then slowly they came in, right? So it's still evolving. But what social media and the internet does is that it allows companies to communicate directly with their thousands and millions of consumers. It's something that did not happen before. Before, if you wanted to reach your consumers, you have got to go to mainstream media. You have got to go to newspapers, magazines, TV, radio. Now you don't. You can talk directly to them and they can talk back. So that changes everything.
What is it, the term that you said about the ownless media, the when you refer to Deddy Corbuzier, what was that? I didn't get the term.
Well, homeless media is
Homeless.
media that don't necessarily have a website. They don't have a big. What they do is they use existing social media channels like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram to disseminate their information.
Okay.
Right. And, you know, again, we did this survey of Gen Z and how they consume news. The top news source for Gen Z is not Kompas, it's not Detik, it's not CNN or any of the traditional media. The top news source is Folkative. Right?
Folkative.
So Folkative is the top news source for news. Then CNN comes next, followed by Kompas. And then number 4 is another homeless media, USSP.
What's that?
After that, the Detik. So, you know, you got 2 homeless media in the top 5.
Okay. Very interesting. So things change very fast. Okay, Paul. So how is PR for this in this new age? Is it now? Can we call it digital PR, or it's still PR?
Well, it's still PR. You can call it digital PR, and people have tried calling it digital PR, PR 1.0, PR 2.0, 4.0, and any other thing. But at the end of the day, it is communications. It is understanding. And that's what PR is actually good at. And in this age of social media, PR actually becomes more important because what's important are the relationships that money can't buy. It's very easy for any company to pay influencers, right? So you pay influencers, today I pay you. Tomorrow you pay them, they'll say good things about you. The next day someone else pays them, they'll say good things about them. So that credibility element is not there. And the relationships that brands have with a lot of these influencers is totally transactional. And people know that. Yeah, of course, they'll say great things about you. They'll write about you because you pay them. People know that this is a relationship bought by money. But increasingly, when you look at surveys, what the public, what consumers want is authenticity. And you can only get this authenticity if you, for instance, work with influencers that are non-transactional. And it can happen because in Maverick, one of our clients, their policy, we never pay influencers. So, but we can work with them through finding a shared value and get their cooperation, and we get the word out. And this kind of relationships are non-transactional, so it's even more valuable. It's totally earned media. It's not bought media. It's not paid media. So PR in this age of social media has become all the more important because of all the marketing communications disciplines. It is the only discipline that actually can build these relationships that money can't buy.
Okay, very interesting. So it's about the relationships. The paid media is you pay somebody to say good things about you, but relationship, this is what PR people can help you with, actually building relationships that's long lasting. And you mentioned work with influencers, and if you can find that shared value, sometimes you don't even have to pay them. So it's a win-win, very good for the brand. Okay, Paong, I have a very interesting question. I think it's time for me to move topic to crisis management. So we have a very important question in the chat here. Maybe I'll let the person, Tribudi Utomo, ask you directly. Pak Budi, apakah ada di tempat?
Ya, ada Pak.
Okay, maybe Pak Budi can ask Paong directly because this is one of the subtopic about crisis management that we want to learn from Paong, and I think we have a great case study. It's a tragedy. We're not trying to put in anything, but yeah, we want to learn something from Paong based on his experience. Please go ahead, Pak Budi, with your question.
Ya, hello Paong.
Hello, Pak Budi.
Yeah, I want to ask about Kanjuruhan tragedy in Malang several weeks ago, several days ago. The tragedy affect several stakeholders. In that case, what can the PR division of that stakeholders do to not make things worse? Because all media now cover that tragedy with various angles, and it may jeopardize maybe several stakeholders. What can PR division do about that?
Right. Okay. I think it's a very simple thing. In times of crisis, we always advise our clients to go for the 3 R's of crisis communications. What are the 3 R's? The first R is regret, the second is reason, and the third is remedy. Regret means that you say that you are sorry or you kesal. It's very important that you do that because it demonstrates that you care, right? Sangat kesal mengenai situasi ini, or sangat sedih. So that's where you show that you care, that you're a human being. Once you do that, you need to tell people the reason. Why did this happen? Kejadian ini, as much as you know, how did it start and why did it happen? Because everybody, that's what's on people's mind. How can something like this happen, right? During a crisis, you may not have all the information and all the facts. That's where you need to talk to them and say, look, as far as we know now, so far, this is what we have. It's very important when you do that you double check and triple check check your facts, because you can't go out and say, for instance, 300 people died, and then half an hour later you say, no, actually I was wrong. It's only 200 or 125, right?
Yeah.
Then people will look at you and say, hey, look, are you in control of the situation or not? And then the third one is remedy. How are you going to remedy the situation? What is your solution for this situation? What can the police or PSSI do to make sure that something like this does not happen again? Now, if you do all of that, then you would have demonstrated that you are human and that you care. You are open in the sense of sharing information on what happened, and that you're in control because you have a plan to get the people involved out of this situation, or to make sure that it never happens again. Now, if you can do that, and if you look at how crisis managers overseas handle it, they all follow this formula: regret, reason, remedy. If you can do that, then people are very unlikely to blame you, right? But if you don't do that, then you essentially menuai kritik. You are asking for trouble. And that is what I think the authorities should do. I think they have not been doing it very well. And that's why if you look at social media, on Twitter especially, there's a lot of criticism as to what they are doing. I hope that answers your question, Pak Budi.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ong.
Thank you.
Okay, so very interesting. So the basics of crisis management is 3R. I learned something today. So it's very simple.
No. There's a difference, yeah? That's crisis communication.
Crisis communication.
One of the principles of crisis communications is to use the 3Rs. There is a big difference between crisis communication and crisis management. Right? And crisis is something that I think that a lot of people don't understand fully, but like to say that they are facing a crisis. It's like a horror movie. You pay a lot of money just to frighten yourself, right? Crisis is like that. Even when there's no crisis, I'm in a crisis, I'm handling a crisis. It makes you sound very important and clever. Most of the time, people don't actually face a crisis. So at Maverick, for instance, we look at the situation and we say it's very important that we classify the situation as an incident, an emergency, or crisis. So an incident is something that happens out of best practice. You fix it, it goes away. No reason to panic. An emergency is a very serious incident, and unless you fix it soon, it can spiral out of control, it can escalate. And it needs top management to pay attention. Then you have an emergency. But you are very much still in control of the situation. Probably because the media hasn't got hold of it. Other stakeholders haven't chimed in. Then, basically, if you have an emergency out of control, either you have lost control of the situation or you are in danger of losing control of the situation. Only then are you in a crisis, right? So it's very important because how you act during an incident, an emergency, and a crisis is totally different. And if you get the terms wrong, then it's like the chicken that goes around. The sky is falling. everybody, it's all a crisis. So we get clients sometimes, they have maybe 20 people tweet something bad, or we tweet something bad about them, and they say they are in a crisis. And our reaction is, no, you don't have a crisis, you have an incident, right? Pantau how this is going. If it doesn't grow, just forget it. Don't feed the machine. So if you react too fast and too early, and it's only 20 people without much following retweeting it, then what you're doing is you're causing people to react to you. So and that causes its own problems.
Okay, Bang, very interesting. So incident, emergency, and crisis. Can you give examples so we can actually understand, okay, this belongs to incident, this is emergency, and this is crisis?
Bit difficult. Say I'm an airline and somebody in Medan is unhappy with my service. So they tweeted about it. They might put a photo. And 20, 30 people responded or retweeted it. I would classify that as an incident because it's not going anywhere. Same incident, this guy posts it starts to go viral now. When you say viral, what do you mean? I think it's viral when very prominent users start to people with hundreds and thousands of followers, they start to tweet it or talk about it. DPR members, politicians, mainstream media, and usually what we always watch, is it just to mainstream media? If it jumps into mainstream media, it gets more dangerous because then politicians and everyone else are likely to come in. If it doesn't jump, very often we say that it is just noise. There's no signal. So in crisis management, it's very important, especially in social media, for us to differentiate between signal and noise. There's a lot of social media, but there's very little signal. So if there is signal, then you need to react. If it's just noise, best thing, keep quiet. Because look, Indonesian social media, like other places, it's got no stamina. Heboh for 3 hours. After that, different topic. They all switch to a different topic. And Indonesia, you have so many incidents, right? So loncat from incident to incident. So maybe heboh for 3 hours, 5 hours, but then after that, people move to something else. So why do you waste energy and time reacting to it? Unless you feel that it's going to get more serious.
Okay, so please go ahead.
One of the things when we handle a crisis, and clients sometimes they come and they say, oh look, there's all these people tweeting about this, and we say, look, it may be very irritating, but your best action is to take no action, right? And this is very, very hard for some companies to do, because if they do something, they respond, they feel that they are taking action to respond. But if the action is no action, they feel like this is all happening, people are saying bad things about me, and I'm sitting here and not doing anything. But that actually is the best action, especially in social media, because if you go in too early, too prematurely, then you're just asking for trouble.
Okay, sometimes the best action is to take no action. There was for incident. Emergency meaning already going to be picked up by the traditional media, is it? That's emergency.
So emergency, let's say you have, say, 5 people die in an accident in a factory. You know about it. Some of your staff knows about it. The media still doesn't know about it. And that's it. So the information hasn't got out. So you have an emergency situation because you're still in control. Or let's say if it's a food company, there might be some food contamination. You know about it, no one else knows about it yet, right? Maybe somebody in Magelang or Pekalongan has got food poisoning. It's reported to you, but it's not in the media yet. So what do? You are in an emergency situation. You have to recall, right? Do you recall, do limited recall? Do you do a public recall? All of these things you have to do. And if you don't do that, will you be accused of neglecting the safety of your consumers? If you don't do that, if you don't handle that emergency, then it's going to spiral out of control and you might see a crisis. So like a food group recently was interesting because they were banned in Hong Kong 1 week ago, and then a few days ago they were banned in Singapore. But there's no recall, and the claim is that our food is okay. So what are the chances that authorities in Hong Kong and authorities in Singapore find the same substance? You know, it's asking for trouble. They can get very lucky and this issue can go away, but they have an emergency situation. If they are not so lucky, it turns into a crisis. Then newspapers will all be hounding them. The DPR members will get involved. Everyone gets involved. So that huge threat that comes onto you, and it creates the dynamic of a crisis, which is it's very hard to maintain control there. And that's the key word in crisis management: control. If you can retain control of things, then you're in a good place. If you lose control, the crisis gets bigger and bigger.
Okay, very clear. So the example of the food group, it belongs to emergency. It's not yet into crisis.
Well,
Unless...
it's getting close to a crisis. Again, luck plays a huge part because a few media have reported it, except that there's no momentum yet. So if I would be monitoring all these things and social media very, very carefully. If it goes a bit up, they might need to act.
Okay, so we understand. So emergency is you have an emergency, death or dangerous substance, like the example. Okay, Bawang, we have 2 minutes left. I still have one more question, how to measure PR, but I don't think we have the time for it. But can you give us 1 minute closing statement about, okay, maybe there's a question here from Paadi. How can PR help SME, small medium enterprise, to grow their business in middle of economic storm right now? So maybe 1 minute motivation word directed to struggling businesses, especially when the news now is talking about recession. Please, Bao.
Okay, well, in a recession when times are hard, trust is very important. If you do your PR well, you are able to project that image whereby people will trust you. And that gives you a competitive advantage over your competitors. If you can speak in a way that's authoritative, that's authentic, and can project trust, then you have an advantage over the others, and that can help you tide over the recession.
Okay, wonderful. So again, the keywords, relationship, authenticity, and trust. This is something that I'm sure the PR professionals know much more than the regular advertising people. Okay, Pak Ong, thank you so much for your time. I will close with the quote. I begin this talk with a quote. I will end with a quote. Advertising is what you pay for, and publicity is what you pray for. Okay, thank you so much, Pak Ong. Terima kasih mitra bisnis yang sudah mendengarkan di udara pasfm Jakarta, Surabaya, Semarang, Solo, dan Jogja nanti akan direkam. Terima kasih teman-teman yang ada di Zoom yang sudah hadir. Ikuti Instagram Sandler untuk webinar-webinar gratis seperti ini selanjutnya. Oke, semuanya terima kasih, salam sehat, dan juga
92.4 Pas FM, Radio Bisnis Jakarta.
pasfm.